And we're seeing more children not being able to cope with the everyday life of school and home.
It's a problem growing at an alarming rate. Thousands of young people are taking their own lives. More are attempting suicide. So what's going on? And what can we do to better understand it?
We want to make sure that we're taking care of our kids educationally as well as socially and emotionally.
We have to teach kids how to cope and how to get along with others. And what happens if you can't cope? Where do you turn to?
We take a closer look in this Learning Matters special, Lost Youth. I'm Ann Shannon. Thanks for joining us for this Learning Matters special, looking at the problem of youth suicide. In the next half hour, you'll hear the personal stories of families who are survivors. We'll talk to mental health professionals about the warning signs to be on the lookout for. And we'll connect you with the resources that are available if you or someone you know may be considering suicide. But first, a look at some of the numbers. Suicide takes the lives of nearly 40,000 Americans each year. And while suicide impacts every age group, among children aged 10 to 17, suicide is the second leading cause of death. In 2011, the last year that statistics are available, more than 5,000 people ages 10 to 24 took their own life. That's a 13% increase from just a decade ago. Even more shocking, there are an estimated 8 to 25 attempted suicides to each completed suicide. The strongest risk factor for suicide is depression. But the statistics do not really tell the story. They can't, because behind each number there is a person, a husband, a daughter, a friend, a neighbor, a loved one. For one York County woman, those numbers represent her son. She says he's so much more than that.
He was an artist. He loved photography. He was going to school at the Art Institute of Philadelphia. He loved Philly.
Lucy Cadwallader cherishes her son's memory. She smiles when she remembers his creativity and love for the arts. That is what she wants him to be remembered for.
He was more than just, a person who died of suicide.
From the age of 10, Daniel struggled with depression. While he had family support and worked hard to overcome the disease, Daniel took his own life in 2010.
He couldn't handle the pain anymore from the depression.
He was 23.
His life mattered, and it still does.
Lucy says she wants her son to be remembered for the way that he lived, not the way that he died. His family knew that he suffered from depression, and they worked to offer him a lot of support, but not everyone has that support network. Mental health professionals say there are signs that we all can be on the lookout for when it comes to preventing suicide.
Listen to what people say. People that die by suicide just want somebody to listen to them.
Here are some of the other things that you can be on the lookout for. Things like self-medicating or substance abuse, either alcohol or drugs. There are also mood swings or changing emotions, especially when they come in extreme highs or lows. Someone who starts living on the edge may be crying out for help. Another thing to start looking out for, someone who's struggling at school, and relationship issues with either parents or other loved ones.
Girlfriend-boyfriend relationships, breaking up. How do you handle those? Talk to kids as soon as they've broken up with somebody that's very close to them. Make sure that they know they have somebody to turn to.
Coming up next, find out why it will soon be mandatory for schools in Pennsylvania to talk about suicide prevention in class.
We want to make sure that we're taking care of our kids educationally as well as socially and emotionally. So I think this is a good step.
And we'll go to one Susquehanna Valley school that's ahead of that mandate, see what school leaders are already doing to make a difference in the lives of their students. But first, there are resources available to help. If you're feeling depressed or need to talk to somebody, you can use the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. This number is staffed 24/7 for anyone who needs assistance. We'll be giving you more resources throughout this Learning Matters special. We'll be right back. Here's another 24/7 resource for anyone needing help. It's the Crisis Text Line. Just text LISTEN to the number 741-741, and somebody will text you back about anything that's on your mind. As we've been telling you, there are a number of resources for people struggling with depression and thoughts of self-harm. Jan Bailey is with Mental Health America of Lancaster County, one of the Susquehanna Valley organizations working to combat this issue. Jan, talk to me a little bit about the work you're doing right now.
Well, at Mental Health America, we are working to help individuals lead mentally healthy lives.
And you say you want to take the stigma out of mental health issues. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. In our work, one of the things that we know all so well is that stigma kills. Stigma kills when we won't have the conversation around suicide, around anxiety, around depression, and other life pressures and psychiatric disorders. So when we look at this, our goal is to find ways to begin the conversation, one that moves us away from the model of illness. When we look at mental illness, we find that that is debilitating. To change the conversation, we're looking at entering from a place of wellness, which is an invitation, as we all want to take care of ourselves. And in order to know optimal health, we need to be taking care of our mind, body, and spirits.
And you say a lot of us are really good at taking care of our bodies and taking care of our spiritual lives, but mentally not so good at that.
No, and it goes back to the stigma. We find ourselves in a place where to talk about how we're feeling is difficult. I don't think that people want to avoid the subject by not caring. I think that people just don't know how to enter the conversation. And part of what I see is an importance of what I call leaning into conversations without judgment. When someone in our world is saying, oh, I just want to kill myself, especially with a teen, the comment might be from a friend, oh, would you stop being such a drama queen? And we need to stop and provide education at all levels, friend to friend, educators, professionals, parents, to let them know that entering a conversation could be absolutely life-saving, and doing so without judgment is so critical.
You said, and it's an important statistic, 90% of individuals who complete suicide actually have a treatable issue going on.
Absolutely, and I think that's the statistic that I find to be something that is we need to pay attention to that. We need to pay attention to it, because what that says is that people who are feeling depressed, people who have anxiety, people who are living with stress, highs and lows, whatever that might be, can find treatment. And treatment leads to lives filled with hope, possibility, and joy.
Well, we thank you so much for sharing with us today. Jan Bailey, Mental Health America. Thank you very much. Earlier this year, the governor signed a bill that involves schools in the fight against youth suicide. It makes suicide prevention programs mandatory. 8 on Your Side government reporter Pete Montine explains.
In June, Governor Tom Corbett signed Act 71 into law. It requires Pennsylvania schools to adopt age-appropriate youth suicide awareness and prevention programs from 6th grade on. Teachers, administrators, counselors, and school nurses will have to complete 2 hours of training in suicide awareness and prevention each year. Non-teaching staff, such as bus drivers and cafeteria workers, are also being encouraged to get the training. The law goes into effect next school year.
Thanks, Pete. Well, there are a number of school districts in the Susquehanna Valley that are already taking the lead when it comes to suicide awareness, even ahead of this new legislation. In one Lancaster County school, school leaders are targeting middle and early high school students. Their goal? To get students, teachers, and families talking about how they feel. At Pequay Valley Intermediate School, students are set to experience something new this school year. Instead of just concentrating on academics, school leaders are expanding their focus. They're introducing a new program called Teen Hope,
which really is a program about changing the culture of the attitude toward mental health and mental illness in adolescents and teenagers.
Ladies and gentlemen, just a reminder for your current event.
Every student in the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade will be given the option to be screened by mental health professionals. The students will be asked to answer 7 questions.
My hope is the students will have an opportunity to answer some questions that will give some insight into how they're feeling.
Principal Sharon Ray knows there's a lot going on in the life of a young person. She's concerned about some of the baggage they bring to school and thinks the screening questions will help.
Maybe some things will be identified that they're not even aware that they're dealing with.
Pequay Valley is working with Samaritan Counseling to develop Teen Hope.
Let me think about this.
Once the student fills out the screening, professionals will take a look and connect students in need with resources that can help.
I think that we're going to start something pretty exciting, and I think that we will definitely see the benefits from that.
Beyond screening for problems, school leaders are hoping to start conversations about mental health and other struggles.
My biggest hope is that every student has that support that is needed and knows where to turn should things get really desperate and bad.
It's a subject that we don't like to talk about or think about, but we know that eventually we are going to help students maybe understand why they're feeling the way that they're feeling.
Along with Teen Hope, the school district is also working to develop other support mechanisms. They want their students to know
You're not just going through it alone. You have friends, you have teachers, you have administration that care about you.
The Teen Hope program has already been implemented in several Susquehanna Valley schools, and leaders are hoping to expand the program and the number of students reached in the coming school year. Still to come, a community comes together after a teenager takes his own life.
That was the beginning in my mind, and I really believe that God gave me these two ideas.
Find out what the Alpha and Omega Project is all about and how those who have survived the suicide of a loved one are an important part.
I hope that I can somehow help somebody else by being involved in it.
But we want to go to break by giving you more resources that you can call right now or anytime you or someone you know may need help. Earlier, we gave you a number for the National Suicide Hotline. Now these are some local organizations. For people in Cumberland, Perry, and Dauphin counties, you can reach this helpline 24/7. In Lancaster County, the Mental Health Crisis Intervention Program is also available around the clock. In Lebanon County, you can reach the Philhaven Crisis Intervention Unit by calling this number. And in York County, WellSpan operates this crisis intervention hotline any time of day. We've also put a link to these numbers on our website, WGAL.com. Welcome back to this Learning Matters special. The PSA you just saw is from an organization called the Trevor Project. It is the leading national organization providing crisis intervention and suicide prevention services to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning community between the ages of 13 and 24. According to Trevor, LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to commit suicide. Each year, more than 36,000 callers use the lifeline. If you're thinking about suicide, you can get immediate help by calling 1-866-488-7386. Here in the Susquehanna Valley, community leaders are coming together after a teen took his own life in Cumberland County this spring. A group of police chaplains decided they wanted to do more. So they joined together with those who have survived the premature death of a loved one in the hopes of making a difference. They formed the Alpha and Omega Project.
I had been married for a little over 20 years to Blake. He was the love of my life.
Amy Hartman beams when she talks about her husband.
He was a very, very positive, happy, outgoing person. He would help anybody.
That's part of the reason his death came as such a surprise.
On November 12th, 2004, he committed suicide. Totally out of the blue, unexpected. There was no indication, there was no warning.
Amy was left to raise the couple's 2 young sons and to try to make some sense of her husband's decision to take his own life.
Besides being in shock when something like this happens, the pain is so overwhelming. It's excruciating. Probably some of the worst pain you can feel.
But even as she grieved, she believed something positive would come from his passing.
I also knew that somehow there's got to be some sense, some purpose with this. Something good has got to come out of this. It just has to. And I knew that night that something, somewhere, some good was going to come out of it.
It was May 20th when I got a call. It was right around midnight.
Pastor Chuck Kish was serving as a chaplain that night. A 17-year-old had taken his own life. And as Kish ministered to the family, he knew he had to do something to help those left behind.
And that was the beginning in my mind, and I really believe that God gave me these two ideas.
So he worked to develop the Alpha and Omega teams.
So the Alpha is the prevention part. Right person, right time.
The Alpha Group will primarily work with young people.
To breathe hope into their lives and let them know that no matter what you're going through, no matter what mound of ashes there are in your life, greatness can come from ashes. Then what you can do.
The Omega team will walk alongside loved ones as they grieve the loss of someone through suicide.
I just wanted somebody to say, you're going to get through this. It's going to be okay.
Amy Hartman knows her experience will help her serve others on the Omega team.
This is what I've actually prayed for many, many, many years since it happened, that I could use my experience to help somebody and to be that person that when they say, I know how you're feeling, truly does know how they're feeling.
Amy believes by helping others, she will also help herself. Right now, the Alpha Project is still in the planning stages, but the Omega Project is up and running. The Omega team meets with families in need after they've lost a loved one to suicide. When we come right back, the 3 things you need to know about the growing issue of suicide among young people. Throughout the special, we have been providing you with resources available to anyone who's dealing with depression or thoughts of suicide. This next resource is for an online crisis chat room. The website is crisischat.org. And while the other resources we've been providing are available 24 hours a day, this one is only available from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. So people looking for help will be connected to a professional to chat with online. For many families, a death by suicide is completely unexpected. That's the case for the Shancer family. Desmond Shancer took his own life at the age of 21. Now his father, Mark, is dedicating his life to helping others. Mark, you have really turned your pain into action.
The Walk for Des, which I started with my family, my daughter and wife, it became my counseling. I do what I do to try to help other families, and I do it in honor of Desmond. And I don't know what else I should be doing other than trying to prevent this from happening, because it's such a devastating effect to every family. There's an average out there. They say a suicide affects six other people. Well, it's really more than 6. It affects your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your cousins, your co-workers, your friends that are friends, and the list goes on. So I'm trying to do what I can to get the word out there, to really try to get into the mind of someone contemplating suicide and let he or she know that there's help out there and they don't have to do this.
Tell me a little bit about your son.
Desmond was a smart, well-liked kid. He had the biggest heart in the world. He would, if it was 3 o'clock in the morning and a friend of his needed help, he was out the door, like, in an instant, to go pull somebody out of a ditch, only to get his own truck stuck in the ditch. He would do anything. He went to UTI, Universal Technical Institute, to become a diesel mechanic. If he fell asleep in class, he would wake up and take the quiz and ace it, 10 out of 10, as if he was listening to everything his instructors were saying. So he's a smart kid, and yeah, we miss him.
And the signs, you didn't see any signs that he might be thinking about or contemplating taking his own life?
No, in what I'm learning, and I learn more every day, the Walk for Des stands for Detect Early Signs, and my wife came up with this from his name, Desmond. She wanted his name there. Now that I know the signs, I never saw any of those signs. And what hurts is, after something like this happens, every family, there's the, what if I would have done this, what if I could have done that, or I should have done this, or should have done that, or what were they thinking, or maybe I could have been a better mother, or I could have been a better father, and you just, those things you'll never know. So I do what I do to help others, and my phone and my door is open to any other mother, father, sister, brother, or whatever that has experienced a suicide and needs someone to talk to. 'Cause there's nothing better to me than to talk to someone who walks in the same shoes.
Tough shoes to be in, though.
It really is.
Well, we thank you so much for sharing with us. And if you'd like to learn more about the Walk for Des, we've set up a link on WGAL.com. According to the Centers for Disease Control, one person dies of suicide every 13 minutes. That means 2 lives ended prematurely just in the time of this broadcast. So what can you do? First, be aware of and look for the signs of potential suicide, both in yourself and in others. If you're feeling lonely, scared, depressed, or angry, or know someone else who is, reach out, get help. Second, talk about it. Start a conversation about how you feel or show somebody else that you care. Sometimes that can make the biggest difference. And third, seek help. We've shared with you a number of different resources that are available if you are hurting and need help. There's someone there for you. We've added all of these resources to our website, WGAL.com. Thanks for joining us for this Learning Matters special. If you'd like to learn more about this or other education topics, you can click on the Learning Matters tab on WGAL.com. For everyone here at News 8, I'm Ann Shannon.